Yeah, Grandma. I just got into town. I'm at that little flea market by the train station. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm looking for something special for your birthday. Yes, Grandma, I know. I won't spend too much. Okay. Love you. See you soon. Bye. A beautiful piece catches my eye. A vintage trunk, worn but elegant, like it's holding secrets. Beautiful piece, isn't it? The vendor says. Came in yesterday. Estate sale. It's perfect, I tell him. My grandmother would love this. How much? For you? $75. I'll take it. I hand the vendor some cash. Excuse me, miss, sir. I turn. A man, a little frantic, breathing hard, pushes through the crowd. Have you seen a little girl? My daughter. She ran off. I've been searching everywhere. A little girl? No, I haven't. She's 8. Brown hair, teal dress. She plays hide and seek when she shouldn't. Did either of you see her? Please. I'm so sorry, I tell him. I haven't seen any children here. Have you checked? His eyes land on the trunk. That trunk. Would you mind if could I look inside, just to be sure? She loves tight spaces. Oh, sure. I just bought it, but go ahead. He lifts the lid, stares inside for too long, jaw tight. No, she couldn't fit in there anyway, too small. He looks around, desperate. Chloe, where are you? He turns back one more time. If you see her, brown hair, teal dress, 8 years old, call the police. Her name is Chloe. Of course, I say. I hope you find her. Thank you. He runs off, shouting her name. A small hand appears, gripping the edge. Then, a little girl emerges, light brown hair, tangled and dirty, striking blue-green eyes filled with terror, wearing a wrinkled, stained teal dress. She's shaking, tears streaming down her face. Please don't make me go back. Aaliyah, frozen in shock. Oh my God! That man, the one looking for me, he's not my real dad. He's not. She breaks down, sobbing. Please don't let him take me back. Please. Aaliyah, kneeling down, instincts taking over. Hey, it's okay. You're safe. What's your name, sweetheart? Chloe Hayes. Okay, Chloe. My name is Aaliyah. You're safe now, I promise. She reaches out slowly. What were you doing in my trunk? Chloe, voice breaking. I didn't know where else to go. I saw you at the market, through the gap in the trunk. You looked kind. Aaliyah's expression shifts to horror as realization dawns. That man? He was really looking for you? Chloe nods, fresh tears falling. He steals kids. He locks us up. I escaped when he stopped at the train station. I saw the trunk and I climbed in. I prayed someone good would buy it. Aaliyah immediately reaches for her phone. Okay, Chloe. Everything is going to be okay. I'm calling the police right now. She starts dialing 911. Aaliyah was counting out the last $20 bill when she heard the commotion. Raised voices, hurried footsteps, the casual buzz of the flea market shifting into something urgent. Excuse me, please, has anyone seen a little girl? She looked up to see a man pushing through the sparse morning crowd, his face flushed and slick with sweat. His shirt was untucked, hair disheveled like he'd been running. Everything about him screamed panic. Leo, the elderly vendor, straightened up with concern. "What's wrong, son?" "My daughter," the man gasped, hands trembling as he gestured wildly. "She ran off. We were just here, right by the train station, and she does this sometimes, plays hide and seek when I'm not looking." Aaliyah's stomach tightened. As a social worker, she'd handled missing child cases before. That first hour was critical. How long has she been gone? 20 minutes, maybe more. I don't know. He ran both hands through his hair. God, I don't know. I turned my back for 1 second. "What does she look like?" Leo asked. 8 years old, long brown hair, down to here. He gestured to his shoulders. "She's wearing a teal dress, light blue-green, her favorite color." His voice cracked. "Her name is Chloe." Aaliyah felt her chest constrict. A little girl alone near a train station. The scenarios flooding her mind were the kind that kept her up at night. "We'll help you look," she said immediately. "Leo, have you seen anyone matching that description?" The old man shook his head, already scanning the market. "No, but let's ask around." Within moments, a small group had formed. A woman selling pottery, a couple browsing vintage records. Everyone wanted to help find the missing child. Aaliyah watched the father, Victor, he said his name was, describe his daughter over and over, his desperation palpable. Then his gaze landed on the trunk at Aaliyah's feet. "That trunk," Victor said suddenly, moving toward it. "Could she loves squeezing into small spaces when she's hiding. Would you mind if I—" "Of course," Aaliyah said, stepping aside. Victor lifted the lid, peering inside with an intensity that made Aaliyah's skin prickle. He stared into the empty interior for what felt like too long, his jaw working. Then he closed it with a hollow thud. No, she couldn't fit in there anyway. He straightened, but his eyes remained fixed on the trunk for another beat. Too small. "We'll keep looking," Leo assured him. "Someone must have seen her." "Chloe!" Victor's shout was raw, desperate. "Chloe, where are you?" He moved away from Aaliyah's stall, weaving between tables and calling his daughter's name. Other vendors joined the search, voices overlapping in concern. Aaliyah watched him disappear around a corner, that strange feeling still coiled in her gut. Something about the way he'd looked at the trunk, the way his hands had clenched when he closed the lid. "Poor man," Leo said softly. "Can't imagine what he's going through." "Yeah," Aaliyah murmured. "Poor man." But as Aaliyah lifted the trunk, heavier than it should be for something empty, she couldn't quite shake the unease crawling up her spine. She told herself it was nothing, just her overactive professional paranoia. She loaded the trunk into her rental car as Victor's distant cries of "Chloe" echoed through the market. Something felt wrong, but Aaliyah pushed the thought away and started the engine, eager to reach her grandmother's peaceful farmhouse and leave this uncomfortable morning behind. If only she'd listened to that instinct. The highway narrowed into a 2-lane road about 15 miles out town. Aaliyah rolled down the window, letting the warm air wash over her face. The tension in her shoulders, permanent fixtures from back-to-back cases, began to ease slightly. In the rear-view mirror, the trunk sat secured in the back seat. She'd had to recline the passenger seat forward to fit it. Worth it, though. Grandma would love it. The landscape transformed gradually, like watching a painting come to life in slow motion. Manicured suburban lawns gave way to wild grasses swaying in the breeze. Strip malls and gas stations disappeared, replaced by weathered barns and hand-painted signs advertising fresh eggs and honey. Rolling hills stretched endlessly in all directions, painted in shades of gold and green. Aaliyah felt something unknot deep in her chest. When had she last taken a real breath? When had she last gone more than an hour without checking her work email? Last month, she'd lost a case, A 13-year-old girl returned to a home Aaliyah knew wasn't safe, but the system had failed them both. She sat in her car after the hearing and cried for an hour. Her supervisor told her she needed time off, told her she was burning out. Maybe he was right. The road curved through a tunnel of ancient oaks, their branches creating a canopy of dappled shadows. Then the trees opened up, and there it was, Grandma's farmhouse, exactly as Aaliyah remembered from childhood summers. Leo, the elderly vendor, straightened up with concern. "What's wrong, son?" "My daughter," the man gasped, hands trembling as he gestured wildly. "She ran off. We were just here, right by the train station, and she does this sometimes, plays hide and seek when I'm not looking." Aaliyah's stomach tightened. As a social worker, she'd handled missing child cases before. That first hour was critical. How long has she been gone? 20 minutes, maybe more. I don't know. He ran both hands through his hair. God, I don't know. I turned my back for 1 second. "What does she look like?" Leo asked. 8 years old, long brown hair, down to here. He gestured to his shoulders. "She's wearing a teal dress, light blue-green, her favorite color." His voice cracked. "Her name is Chloe." Aaliyah felt her chest constrict. A little girl alone near a train station. The scenarios flooding her mind were the kind that kept her up at night. "We'll help you look," she said immediately. "Leo, have you seen anyone matching that description?" The old man shook his head, already scanning the market. "No, but let's ask around." Within moments, a small group had formed. A woman selling pottery, a couple browsing vintage records. Everyone wanted to help find the missing child. Aaliyah watched the father, Victor, he said his name was, describe his daughter over and over, his desperation palpable. Then his gaze landed on the trunk at Aaliyah's feet. "That trunk," Victor said suddenly, moving toward it. "Could she loves squeezing into small spaces when she's hiding. Would you mind if I—" "Of course," Aaliyah said, stepping aside. Victor lifted the lid, peering inside with an intensity that made Aaliyah's skin prickle. He stared into the empty interior for what felt like too long, his jaw working. Then he closed it with a hollow thud. No, she couldn't fit in there anyway. He straightened, but his eyes remained fixed on the trunk for another beat. Too small. "We'll keep looking," Leo assured him. "Someone must have seen her." "Chloe!" Victor's shout was raw, desperate. "Chloe, where are you?" He moved away from Aaliyah's stall, weaving between tables and calling his daughter's name. Other vendors joined the search, voices overlapping in concern. Aaliyah watched him disappear around a corner, that strange feeling still coiled in her gut. Something about the way he'd looked at the trunk, the way his hands had clenched when he closed the lid. "Poor man," Leo said softly. "Can't imagine what he's going through." "Yeah," Aaliyah murmured. "Poor man." But as Aaliyah lifted the trunk, heavier than it should be for something empty, she couldn't quite shake the unease crawling up her spine. She told herself it was nothing, just her overactive professional paranoia. She loaded the trunk into her rental car as Victor's distant cries of "Chloe" echoed through the market. Something felt wrong, but Aaliyah pushed the thought away and started the engine, eager to reach her grandmother's peaceful farmhouse and leave this uncomfortable morning behind. If only she'd listened to that instinct. The highway narrowed into a 2-lane road about 15 miles out town. Aaliyah rolled down the window, letting the warm air wash over her face. The tension in her shoulders, permanent fixtures from back-to-back cases, began to ease slightly. In the rear-view mirror, the trunk sat secured in the back seat. She'd had to recline the passenger seat forward to fit it. Worth it, though. Grandma would love it. The landscape transformed gradually, like watching a painting come to life in slow motion. Manicured suburban lawns gave way to wild grasses swaying in the breeze. Strip malls and gas stations disappeared, replaced by weathered barns and hand-painted signs advertising fresh eggs and honey. Rolling hills stretched endlessly in all directions, painted in shades of gold and green. Aaliyah felt something unknot deep in her chest. When had she last taken a real breath? When had she last gone more than an hour without checking her work email? Last month, she'd lost a case. A 13-year-old girl returned to a home Aaliyah knew wasn't safe, but the system had failed them both. She sat in her car after the hearing and cried for an hour. Her supervisor told her she needed time off, told her she was burning out. Maybe he was right. The road curved through a tunnel of ancient oaks, their branches creating a canopy of dappled shadows. Then the trees opened up, and there it was, Grandma's farmhouse, exactly as Aaliyah remembered from childhood summers. The little girl from the market. The missing daughter. Long, light brown hair, tangled and matted with sweat. Those striking blue-green eyes, red-rimmed and wide with terror. And the teal dress, wrinkled, stained with dirt and something darker that Aaliyah didn't want to identify. The child was shaking so violently that the trunk lid trembled in her grasp. "Oh my God," Aaliyah whispered. The girl flinched at the words, and Aaliyah immediately held up both hands, showing they were empty, unthreatening. "It's okay. You're okay. Please," the word came out as barely more than a breath. "Please don't make me go back." The girl climbed out of the trunk with movements that spoke of cramped limbs and exhausted muscles. She couldn't have been more than 8 years old, exactly what the man had said. She stood there in the middle of the living room, swaying slightly, looking like she might collapse at any moment. "Please," she said again, and this time her voice broke completely. Tears spilled down her cheeks, cutting tracks through the dirt on her face. "That man, the one looking for me, he's not my dad. He's not. He's—" A sob choked off the rest of her words. Aaliyah's professional composure shattered. She dropped to her knees, making herself smaller, less threatening. Every alarm in her head was screaming. Physical signs of abuse, obvious terror, a kidnapping victim. This was real. This was happening. "Sweetheart, what's your name?" "Chloe." The girl wrapped her arms around herself. "Chloe Hayes." "Chloe, my name is Aaliyah. I'm a social worker. Do you know what that means?" The girl nodded slightly. "It means I help kids. It means you're safe now. I promise you're safe." "He'll find me." Chloe's eyes darted to the windows, the door, back to the trunk, as if it might offer sanctuary again. "He always finds us." Us. Plural. Aaliyah felt nausea rise in her throat. How many children? How long had this been happening? "Chloe, honey, I need you to tell me what happened. Can you do that?" The girl nodded, but her whole body was shaking now. Shock, Aaliyah recognized, the adrenaline wearing off, reality crashing in. "I was at a playground," Chloe whispered. 3 weeks ago. He took me. He locks kids in a basement. Her voice dropped to barely audible. "He sells them." Aaliyah's vision tunneled. 3 weeks. This child had been missing for 3 weeks, and that man at the market? Children. "I escaped," Chloe continued, the words tumbling out faster now, frantic. "When he stopped at the train station, I saw the trunk at the market. I saw you through the gap. You looked kind, so I climbed in. I prayed someone would buy it. I prayed you wouldn't open it until we were far away." "You did so well, Chloe. You were so brave." Aaliyah pulled her phone out with shaking hands. Still 1 bar, but enough. It had to be enough. "I'm calling 911 right now, okay? You're going to go home. You're going to see your family again." But even as she dialed 911, even as the call tried to connect and failed, tried again, Chloe's next words made her blood freeze. "He'll know where I am," the girl whispered, staring down at her worn sneakers. "He put something in my shoe, so I can't run away." Aaliyah looked at the muddy, tattered sneaker. Then she looked out the window at the long, empty driveway stretching toward the road, at the perfect isolation she'd been so grateful for just moments ago, and she realized with dawning horror that they were completely, utterly alone. You know, sometimes a single moment can change everything. For Aaliyah, it was hearing that small voice from inside the trunk. For Chloe, it was choosing to trust a stranger's kind face. If this story is touching your heart the way it's touching mine, I'd love for you to stay with us. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what happens next. And if you're feeling what I'm feeling right now, that mix of fear and hope, drop a comment below. Tell me, would you have had the courage to protect Chloe? What would you have done? Your thoughts matter. Your voice matters. And stories like these, they matter most when we share them together. Now, let's find out if Aaliyah and Chloe can survive what's coming next. Aaliyah guided Chloe to the couch, her hands gentle but firm. The girl's legs seemed to give out the moment she sat down, as if the last 3 weeks of terror had finally caught up with her body. "Start from the beginning," Aaliyah said softly, sitting beside her but keeping enough distance to not feel threatening. Her hands twisted in the dirty fabric of her teal dress. When she spoke, her voice was small and hollow, like something had been scraped out of her. "I was at Riverside Playground, the one near my house." A shuddering breath. "Mom lets me play there after school sometimes. There's a purple slide I like." Past tense. Let's. Like that life was already a memory. "He was there, watching. I didn't notice until—" Her voice cracked. "He said his dog ran into the woods, asked if I could help him find it. I love dogs. I thought—" She broke off, tears streaming down her cheeks. Aaliyah handed her a tissue from the side table, her own throat tight. "There was no dog," Chloe whispered. "He grabbed me, put something over my mouth, sweet smelling. Everything went dark." Chloroform, probably. Aaliyah's stomach churned. "When I woke up, I was in a basement, cement floor, one light bulb, no windows." Chloe's eyes were distant now, seeing that place instead of this safe living room. "There were other kids there, 2 boys, a girl younger than me. They said he keeps us until the customers come." "Customers?" Aaliyah vibrated down. "People who buy children." Chloe said it so matter-of-factly, as if she'd had 3 weeks to make peace with the horror of it. "We were merchandise. He told us that. He said if we behaved, if we stayed pretty and quiet, we'd go somewhere better. If we didn't—" She didn't finish. Didn't need to. "The other kids?" Aaliyah asked carefully. "Are they still—" "I don't know. I think so. He took the younger girl away 2 days ago before I escaped. She was crying. He said she was going to her new family." The way Chloe said "new family" made Aaliyah want to scream. "The boys were still there when I got out." Aaliyah's mind was racing. A trafficking ring, multiple victims, an active situation. The FBI needed to know, the state police, everyone. "How did you escape?" For the first time, something other than fear crossed Chloe's face. A flicker of pride, quickly buried. "I found my tracking device 2 days ago, wedged it loose, but kept it in my shoe so he didn't know. When he left me in the van, I put the shoe on the floor by the door. Then I ran." Smart. So impossibly smart for an 8-year-old who'd been through hell. "I saw the flea market across from the station. All these people. I thought if I could hide, blend in, maybe—" She wiped her eyes. "Then I saw the trunk. It was open, big enough. And I saw you." "Me?" "You were smiling, talking to the old man. You looked safe." Fresh tears spilled over. "I climbed in before you bought it. I was so scared you'd see me, or that he'd check better. But the lid was heavy, and it was dark, and I held my breath and prayed." Aaliyah's own eyes were burning now. This child had curled up in darkness in a stranger's trunk because it was better than the alternative, because a kind face had been her only hope. "You did everything right, Chloe. You're so brave. He knows where I am." Chloe's voice turned urgent again, panicked. The tracker. It's been in my shoe this whole time. He's probably already on his way. Aaliyah's phone was already in her hand. 911 punched in. She hit call. Nothing. The screen showed call failed. She tried again. Same result. Come on, she muttered, moving toward the window where she sometimes got better reception. 1 bar flickered to 2, back to 1. Third attempt. It rang. Once. Twice. Then the call dropped. Aaliyah looked out the window at the long, empty driveway stretching toward the main road. 30 miles from town. No neighbors. Spotty service. And somewhere out there, a man who stole children was following a GPS signal straight to them. She tried 911 again. This time, it didn't even ring. We need to destroy it. Aaliyah reached for the sneaker, but Chloe pulled it back, clutching it to her chest. He'll know. The second the signal stops, he'll know I found it. He already knows where we are, sweetheart. The damage is done. Aaliyah tried to keep her voice calm, even as her mind raced through scenarios. How long had they been here? 20 minutes? 30? How fast could someone drive from the train station to this farmhouse? Too fast. Not fast enough time to get help. She tried 911 again. The phone rang once, a blessed, beautiful sound, then went silent. Call failed, flashed across the screen like a death sentence. Damn it! She moved to the window, holding the phone up, searching for that magical spot where 1 bar became 2, where the outside world might actually reach them. Miss Aaliyah? Chloe's voice was small behind her. What do we do? What did they do? Aaliyah's training had covered crisis intervention, de-escalation, trauma response. Not this. Not an active predator hunting a child across 30 miles of rural isolation. Think. She forced herself to breathe. Think like a social worker. Think like someone who'd spent 2 years navigating impossible situations. We call for help. We lock the doors. Headlights. At first, Aaliyah thought she'd imagined them, just the setting sun playing tricks through the trees at the end of the driveway. But no, they were moving, growing brighter, coming closer. Get away from the window. The words came out sharper than she intended. Chloe was already moving, pressing herself against the wall beside the grandfather clock. Her face had gone white, all that hard-won bravery dissolving back into pure terror. The headlights swept closer, a dark sedan moving slowly up the gravel drive, not racing, not frantic, methodical, confident, like someone who knew exactly where he was going. Aaliyah's finger hovered over 911. She pressed call, prayed. 1 ring, 2 rings. 911, what's your emergency? Oh, thank God, Aaliyah started. Then the line crackled, distorted. Hello? Hello, I need... Static. Then silence. No, no, no! She redialed. Call failed. Again. Call failed. The sedan pulled up in front of the house and stopped. The engine cut off. For a long moment, nothing happened. Just the headlights illuminating the porch, turning everything stark and overexposed. Then the driver's door opened. A man stepped out. Even through the window, even in the failing light, Aaliyah recognized him. The disheveled hair, now neatly combed, the panicked expression, now replaced with something cold and purposeful. Victor. He looked up at the house, directly at the window where Aaliyah stood, and he smiled. Not the desperate smile of a worried father, not the grateful relief of someone who'd found his lost child. This was something else entirely, something that made Aaliyah's skin crawl. He knew she was watching, wanted her to watch. Chloe, Aaliyah whispered, not taking her eyes off Victor. Go upstairs, find my grandmother's room, end of the hall, door with the flower wreath. Lock yourself in. Don't come out until I tell you it's safe. But now. She heard Chloe's footsteps, quick and light on the stairs. Good. At least she'd be out of immediate reach. Victor started walking toward the porch, not hurrying, taking his time, each step deliberate, measured. He was enjoying this. Aaliyah's phone buzzed. A text message. Somehow those were getting through even when calls weren't. Unknown number. You have something that belongs to me. Her blood turned to ice. Another text. I just want to talk. Let me in. Aaliyah's hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped the phone. She backed away from the window, checking the front door. Locked. The back door? Was it locked? When was the last time Grandma even locked doors out here? Footsteps on the porch. Heavy. Confident. Then a knock. 3 slow raps against the wood. Hello? Victor's voice, muffled but clear. That same false pleasantness from the market. I'm sorry to bother you, miss, but I believe there's been a mistake. Some property of mine ended up in your trunk. Property? He called her property. Aaliyah grabbed the landline from its cradle on the hall table. Please work, please work, please. Dial tone. She nearly sobbed with relief. She punched in 911, her fingers clumsy with adrenaline. Another knock, louder this time. I know you're in there, Victor called, and I know you found her. We can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way. But either way, his voice dropped, losing all pretense of civility. I'm not leaving without what's mine. The line connected. 911, what's your emergency? There's a man trying to break into my house. He's a kidnapper. He traffics children. I have one of his victims. We're at 4758 County Road 12. Please, you have to. Glass shattered. Aaliyah spun around. The kitchen window. Victor's arm was reaching through, feeling for the lock. Ma'am, stay on the line. The 911 operator's voice crackled through the phone. He's breaking in. Aaliyah ran toward the kitchen, her mind racing. Block the door, find a weapon, something, anything. But Victor's hand found the lock first. The kitchen door swung open, and he stepped inside like he owned the place. Glass crunched under his shoes. He wasn't disheveled anymore, wasn't frantic or desperate. His hair was neat, his shirt tucked in. He looked like someone's accountant, someone's neighbor, someone you'd wave to at the grocery store. That was the most terrifying part. You need to leave this property immediately, Aaliyah said, holding the phone up so he could see it. I'm on with 911 right now. Police are en route. Victor glanced at the phone, then back at her, and smiled. It wasn't a warm smile, wasn't even a threatening one really. It was the smile of someone who'd already won and was just waiting for everyone else to realize it. Are they? He leaned against the doorframe, casual, like they were discussing the weather. 30 miles from town. County sheriff probably tied up with something else. Maybe they'll get here in 20 minutes? 40? He shrugged. I can wait. Ma'am, the operator's voice was tinny, distant. Can you describe the suspect? White male, late 30s, about 6 feet tall, Aaliyah started, but Victor just laughed. Oh, they'll have a lovely description, very thorough. I'm sure they'll be very concerned. He took a step into the house. But here's the thing, you have something of mine. There's been a misunderstanding with some property. I'm just here to collect what belongs to me. She's not property. She's a child. Is she? Victor's head tilted, curious, like he was genuinely interested in her opinion. Funny, I have receipts that say otherwise. Transfer documents, very official looking. You'd be surprised what you can accomplish with the right paperwork. Aaliyah's stomach lurched. He wasn't just a trafficker. He was organized, professional. This wasn't some desperate criminal. This was a business. Sir, you need to leave this property immediately. The operator's voice again, stronger now. Officers are en route. Aaliyah! A new voice, from the stairs. No, please no.
Aaliyah turned to see her grandmother standing in the hallway, gripping the banister. She was in her nightgown and robe, her white hair loose around her shoulders. But her eyes, sharp and clear, took in the scene immediately. The broken window, the stranger in her kitchen, the fear on her granddaughter's face. Grandma, go back upstairs. Who is this man? Her grandmother's voice had that steel in it, the one Aaliyah remembered from childhood when she'd done something dangerous. And why is he in my house? Victor's smile widened. Mrs. Hayes, I presume. Lovely home you have here. It's not Hayes, and you weren't invited. She descended 2 more steps, and Aaliyah's heart lurched. "Get out before I get my shotgun." "Grandma, please." "Does she really have a shotgun?" Victor asked conversationally. "I doubt it. Sweet old ladies in farmhouses don't usually—" "Try me." The standoff lasted 3 seconds. Victor's eyes flicked between Aaliyah, her grandmother, and the stairs where Chloe was hiding, calculating. Then he took a step back, hands raised in mock surrender. "Fine, I'll wait outside." He pulled the door closed behind him, but his face appeared in the window. "Not going anywhere, though, just so we're clear. I'll be right here when those police don't show up." The moment he was outside, Aaliyah ran to her grandmother. "Is there really a shotgun?" "In the hall closet. Hasn't been fired in 20 years. Her grandmother's hands were shaking now, the steel facade cracking. "What's happening? Who is that man?" "Long story, but there's a little girl upstairs. Kidnapped, escaped. He's here for her." Aaliyah gripped her grandmother's shoulders. "Grandma, I need you to do something for me. Something important. Anything. Take your car, drive to town, fast as you can. Get the sheriff, state police, whoever you can find. Tell them what's happening." "Absolutely not." Her grandmother's jaw set. "I'm not leaving you here with that—" "Grandma, please. He's not going to hurt me. Not yet. He wants Chloe, and he thinks I'm just some obstacle." Aaliyah pressed her car keys into her grandmother's hand. "But if you don't get help, we're all in danger. My phone barely works. The landline might cut out. You're our only chance." Her grandmother looked toward the kitchen, where Victor's silhouette was visible through the window, still waiting, still watching. "Okay," she whispered, "but you lock every door. You keep that child safe." "I will." They embraced quickly, fiercely. Then her grandmother was moving, grabbing her coat, her own keys, slipping out the back door while Victor watched the front. The car engine started. Gravel crunched as it pulled away. Aaliyah watched through the window as Victor heard it too, saw him turn, see the taillights disappearing down the driveway. He didn't chase the car. He just looked back at the house, at Aaliyah in the window, and that cold smile returned. Now it was just the 3 of them. Aaliyah watched Victor through the window. He'd settled onto the porch steps, perfectly comfortable, like he had all the time in the world. Because he did. Grandma would need at least 20 minutes to reach town, longer to find the sheriff, even longer for them to get back here. 20 minutes was an eternity. "Chloe," Aaliyah called softly up the stairs. "Sweetheart, we need to move." The door at the end of the hall cracked open. Chloe's face appeared, pale and frightened. "Is he gone?" "No, but my grandmother went for help. We're going to be okay." Aaliyah hoped she sounded more confident than she felt. "Come down, quietly." Chloe descended the stairs like a ghost, her footsteps barely audible. When she reached the bottom, she pressed herself against Aaliyah's side. "We're going out the back," Aaliyah whispered. "There's a path through the woods, leads to the main road. We can meet Grandma part way, or flag down a car, or—" "He'll see us." "Not if we're fast." Aaliyah guided Chloe toward the kitchen, away from the front of the house where Victor waited. The broken window made her stomach clench, but he was still outside, still watching the front. They could do this. The back door was heavy oak, original to the house. Aaliyah turned the deadbolt slowly, wincing at every click. The knob turned, cool night air rushed in, carrying the scent of grass and earth. Freedom was 10 feet away. "Well now, where do you think you're going?" Aaliyah's blood turned to ice. A figure stepped out of the darkness beyond the door. Tall, broad-shouldered, backlit by the faint glow from the barn light. For a moment, Aaliyah couldn't process what she was seeing. Then he stepped into the light spilling from the kitchen. Leo, the kindly old vendor from the flea market, the grandfatherly man with the warm eyes and gentle ears. Except those eyes weren't gentle anymore. They were cold, calculating, and very amused. "Going somewhere?" His voice changed too, lower, harder, the folksy warmth completely gone. Chloe made a sound, half gasp, half whimper. Her fingers dug into Aaliyah's arm. "You—" Aaliyah couldn't form words. Her mind was trying to reconcile the 2 images, the harmless vendor and this predator blocking their escape. "You sold me the trunk?" The words came out flat, disbelieving. I did. You were perfect. Bleeding heart social worker, can't resist helping someone in need. Saw it written all over you. His smile was grotesque, a mockery of the friendly expression he'd worn hours ago. Victor makes the pickups. I handle logistics, identify marks, set up the transfers. We're a team. The trunk was supposed to be empty when you bought it. Victor was supposed to grab the girl before she could climb inside. But Chloe's resourceful, slipped past him. By the time we realized she'd hitched a ride with you, well, seemed easier to just follow the GPS and collect her at your destination. Isolated farmhouse, middle of nowhere, actually worked out better. Aaliyah felt sick. Every choice she'd made, buying the trunk, driving here, bringing Chloe to this isolated place, had played right into their hands. You followed us? Every mile, stayed a few cars back on the highway, pulled off before your driveway so you wouldn't notice. He was enjoying this, she realized, enjoyed explaining how thoroughly they'd been played. Victor wanted to rush in, but I said no. Let her feel safe first. Let her call for help on that spotty cell service. Let the old lady drive off for the cavalry that'll take too long to arrive. He spread his hands. Now we're here. No one's coming. No way out. Just give us the girl and we'll be on our way. Never. The word came out stronger than Aaliyah felt. Leo's smile faded. That wasn't a request. Behind them, glass shattered again, the front window this time. Aaliyah spun around. Victor was climbing through, brushing glass from his jacket. He stepped into the living room, blocking that exit too. They were trapped. Victor and Leo exchanged a look, practiced, coordinated. They'd done this before. How many times? How many children? Last chance, Victor said quietly. Give us Chloe, walk away, forget you ever saw her. You're a mandatory reporter, sure, but you've got no proof. It's your word against two upstanding citizens. Who do you think they'll believe? Chloe's hand found Aaliyah's, squeezed tight, trusting, desperate. Aaliyah thought about the other children, the ones still locked in the basement, the little girl who'd been taken away crying, the boys waiting for someone to save them, and she made her choice. No. Victor's expression hardened. Then we do this the hard way. Both stepped forward. Aaliyah's hand shot out, grabbing the cast-iron skillet hanging by the stove. It was heavy, solid, and she swung it with everything she had at Leo's head. He dodged, but not fast enough. The edge caught his temple with a sickening thud. He stumbled backward, cursing. Run! Aaliyah shoved Chloe toward the only place Victor couldn't see yet, the kitchen pantry. Not to hide there, but beyond it, the root cellar. She'd played there as a child during summer visits, Grandma storing potatoes and preserves in the cool darkness beyond the pantry shelves. The narrow door behind the pantry shelves, easy to miss if you didn't know it was there. Aaliyah wrenched open the pantry, swept aside bags of flour and rice. There, the small wooden door, barely 4 feet tall. She wrenched it open. Go, go, go! Chloe didn't hesitate. She ducked through the opening and disappeared into the darkness beyond. Aaliyah followed, her shoulders scraping the frame. Stone steps descended into absolute blackness that smelled of earth and old wood. At the bottom, her feet found packed dirt. Behind the shelves, Aaliyah whispered, all the way back. Her hands found rough wood, the old storage shelves Grandpa had built decades ago. Mason jars lined them, dusty and forgotten. They squeezed behind, pressing themselves into the deepest corner where the stone foundation met the earth. Your shoe, Aaliyah whispered urgently. Give it to me. Chloe's hand found hers in the darkness, pressing the worn sneaker into her palm. Aaliyah felt along the sole until her fingers found the small device. She set it on the floor, then she ground it under her heel. The plastic casing cracked. She twisted, crushed, kept grinding until she felt the internal components give way. No more signal, no more tracker. Above them, footsteps, heavy, deliberate. That was stupid, Victor's voice, muffled by the floorboards. There's nowhere to go. This house has, what, 6 rooms? Check upstairs, Leo said. His voice sounded thick, pained. Good, she hoped she'd given him a concussion. More footsteps, doors slamming, furniture scraping, the crash of something breaking, a lamp maybe, or a picture frame. come out, wherever you are." Victor's voice had taken on a sing-song quality that made Aaliyah's skin crawl, like a child's game, hide and seek. "We know you're here somewhere. Might as well make this easy." Silence. Then footsteps directly above us, in the kitchen. "Wait," Leo's voice. "The pantry. Door's open." "No. Please no. There's another door, behind the shelves." Aaliyah's heart was pounding so hard she was sure they'd hear it through the floorboards. Chloe pressed closer, her face buried against Aaliyah's shoulder. The small cellar door creaked open, light spilled down the stairs. Dim, but after the absolute darkness, it was blinding. Well, well, Victor's silhouette appeared in the doorway. Clever girl. Aaliyah moved before she could think. She pushed Chloe deeper into the corner and positioned herself in front of the stairs, blocking the narrow passage. "You're not getting her." "Yes," Victor said calmly, starting down the steps. "I am." Aaliyah lunged for the stairs, trying to make herself an obstacle. Victor swatted her aside effortlessly. She crashed into the shelves, jars tumbling around her. One shattered against the stone wall. "Aaliyah!" Chloe's scream was sharp with terror. Leo appeared at the top of the stairs, backlit and monstrous. Blood trickled from his temple where she'd hit him. "Move," he snarled down at her. Aaliyah tried to get up, but her ankle gave way, twisted when she fell. She crawled back toward the stairs anyway, desperate, reaching. Leo descended and grabbed her by the hair, dragging her up. Pain exploded across her scalp. He threw her against the far wall, and she crumpled, stars bursting behind her eyes. "Stay down," he hissed. Victor was at the bottom of the stairs now, his footsteps slow and measured, counting. 1. A step. 2. Another step. 3. He was moving toward the shelves now, toward where Chloe was pressed into the corner, cornered prey with nowhere left to run. 4. His hand reached out, grabbing the edge of the shelf. 5. He started to pull it away from the wall. Then, sirens. Distant but unmistakable, growing louder. Victor froze. "No," Leo breathed from the stairs. "Not possible. Not yet." The sirens screamed closer, multiple vehicles, gravel crunching in the driveway, doors slamming. "Police, come out with your hands up." Victor's face twisted with rage. His hand was still on the shelf, still reaching for Chloe, but the moment was broken. Heavy footsteps above, many of them. "Police, show yourselves." The cavalry had arrived. "Hands where we can see them, now." The command came from above, authoritative and absolute. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness of the cellar, illuminating the scene like a stage play frozen in its final act. Victor's hand was still extended toward the shelves, toward Chloe. For one terrible moment, Aaliyah thought he might grab her anyway, might use her as a hostage or shield. His fingers twitched. "Don't move. Hands in the air." Victor's jaw clenched. Then, slowly, his hands rose, but his eyes stayed locked on that corner where Chloe was hidden, promising this wasn't over. Not really. "You too, top of the stairs, hands up." Leo raised his hands, but his face had gone calculating, looking for an exit, looking for leverage. "There's nowhere to go," Aaliyah rasped from where she'd collapsed against the wall. Her voice was raw, but it felt like victory. Boots thundered down the cellar stairs, 3 deputies in tactical gear, weapons drawn and trained on both men. Behind them, more officers flooded the kitchen above. On the ground, face down, now. Victor moved with cold precision, lowering himself to the dirt floor, compliant, calm, like he'd been through this before. That thought made Aaliyah's stomach turn. Leo tried to bolt. He spun toward the stairs, shouldering past the first deputy, but 2 more officers were waiting at the top. He made it 3 steps before they tackled him, driving him hard into the wooden stairs. The impact echoed through the small space. "Don't move. Do not move."
Handcuffs clicked. Once. Twice. Metal against wrist bones. final and absolute. Victor Stone, you're under arrest for kidnapping, human trafficking. The deputy's voice continued, reading rights in that practiced monotone that meant justice, meant safety, meant this nightmare was ending. Another deputy knelt beside Aaliyah. "Ma'am, are you hurt?" "The girl," Aaliyah gasped, pointing toward the shelves. "Behind there, Chloe Hayes. She's the victim. She's been missing 3 weeks." The deputy's flashlight swept the corner, and there she was. Chloe, pressed into the shadows, her teal dress filthy, her face streaked with tears and dirt. Her blue-green eyes were enormous, disbelieving. "Hey, sweetheart," the deputy said gently, holstering his weapon and approaching slowly, hands visible. "My name's Officer Martinez. You're safe now. No one's going to hurt you anymore." Chloe looked at Aaliyah, asking permission, asking if it was real. Aaliyah nodded, tears streaming down her face. "It's okay. You're safe. You're really, really safe." Chloe stepped out from behind the shelves and collapsed into the deputy's arms, sobbing. More officers were helping Aaliyah up now, checking her injuries. Her ankle throbbed, her head pounded where she'd hit the wall, her scalp burned where Leal had yanked her hair, but she was alive. They both were. "Ma'am, we're going to get you both to the hospital. EMTs are outside." "There are more," Aaliyah said urgently, gripping the officer's arm. "More children. Victor has them in a basement somewhere. 2 boys at least, maybe others. They sell them. It's organized, professional." The deputy's expression went hard. "How do you know this?" "Chloe told me. She escaped from there." Another officer appeared at the top of the stairs. "Sheriff, we need you up here. The grandmother's asking about her granddaughter." "Grandma?" Aaliyah tried to climb the stairs, but her ankle buckled. "Easy, easy. We've got you." They half carried her up into the kitchen, where controlled chaos reigned. Officers photographing the broken window, evidence bags, radio chatter. And there, in the living room, her grandmother, still in her nightgown and coat, her white hair wild, her face tight with worry that dissolved the moment she saw Aaliyah. "Oh, thank God." She crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled Aaliyah into a fierce embrace. "Thank God you're alive. You got help. You saved us." "Drove 90 miles an hour down those back roads," her grandmother pulled back, cupping Aaliyah's face in her weathered hands. "When I got to the sheriff's station and told them what was happening, they mobilized everyone, state police, county deputies, everyone." Through the front door, Aaliyah could see the driveway, 5 police vehicles, lights still flashing, an ambulance, officers walking Victor and Leo towards separate patrol cars, both handcuffed, both silent. Victor turned back once, found Aaliyah through the chaos, and even with his hands bound, even with his empire crumbling, he smiled that same cold smile. A deputy blocked his view, pushing him into the back of the cruiser. The door slammed shut, cutting off that final look. "The little girl?" Grandma asked softly. "She's safe." Aaliyah watched as EMTs wrapped a blanket around Chloe's shoulders, offering her water. "She's going home." Officer Martinez approached, notepad in hand. "Ms. Jackson, we need your statement. Everything that happened, from the beginning." Aaliyah nodded. There would be statements, evidence, testimony, a long road ahead for Chloe, for those other children, for justice. But tonight, right now, it was enough that they'd survived, that they'd fought back, and that evil, for once, hadn't won. The sheriff's station smelled like burnt coffee and old linoleum. Aaliyah sat in a vinyl chair, her ankle wrapped and elevated, watching the controlled chaos of a major case unfolding. Phones ringing, officers rushing between desks. The FBI had been called. Child Services was on the way. Chloe sat across from her, wrapped in an oversized sheriff's department sweatshirt, sipping hot chocolate someone had brought her from the diner down the street. She hadn't let go of Aaliyah's hand since they'd arrived. "Ms. Jackson?" A deputy approached. "There's someone here for Chloe." Before Aaliyah could respond, the station doors burst open. A woman rushed in, her face pale and tear-stained,
followed closely by a man with the same haunted, desperate look. "Chloe!" The mug of hot chocolate crashed to the floor, forgotten. Chloe was already running, her small body colliding with her mother with such force they both nearly fell. Her father wrapped his arms around them both, and the three of them collapsed into sobs that shook the entire room. Aaliyah's throat closed up. She looked away, giving them privacy, but she couldn't stop the tears streaming down her own face. "My baby, my baby, my baby." Chloe's mother kept repeating it like a prayer, her hands running over her daughter's hair, her face, checking that she was real and whole and alive. "I'm sorry, Mama. I'm so sorry." "No, no, sweet girl. You have nothing to be sorry for. Nothing." Her father's voice broke. "You're here. You're safe. That's all that matters." They stayed like that for long minutes, crying and holding each other, while the entire sheriff's station quietly looked away, giving them their moment. Finally, Chloe's mother looked up, searching the room until she found Aaliyah. She disentangled herself from her family and crossed to where Aaliyah sat. "You're her?" she asked, her voice hoarse. "You're the one who saved her?" They told us everything, how she hid in your trunk, how you protected her, how you fought." Then the woman's face crumpled again. "You brought my daughter back to me." "I'm just glad she's safe." "No." Chloe's father joined them, his hand on his wife's shoulder. "You don't understand. We've been living a nightmare for 3 weeks, posted thousands of flyers, worked with the FBI, every day wondering if we'd ever see her again. If she was even..." He couldn't finish. "You gave us our daughter back. There aren't words for what that means." Aaliyah hugged them both, all of them crying now. "She's incredibly brave. She saved herself. I just helped her along the way." Sheriff Dawson approached, his expression grave. "Mr. and Mrs. Hayes, we need to brief you on the situation. It's extensive." Over the next hour, Aaliyah learned the full scope of what Victor and Leo had built, a trafficking network spanning 3 states, at least 15 missing children over 2 years, the white van, the basement location, the customers, all of it documented on computers and phones seized from Victor's property. "We found the basement," Sheriff Dawson said quietly. 2 boys, just like Chloe said. "They're safe now, getting medical attention. Your daughter's testimony is going to help us identify other victims, track down everyone involved. She's a hero." Chloe, sitting between her parents, looked small and exhausted. But when the sheriff said hero, she sat up a little straighter. "Can we take her home?" her father asked. "After the medical evaluation and initial interview, yes. We'll need more from her in the coming weeks, but tonight," the sheriff's expression softened, "tonight she should be with her family." 2 days later, Aaliyah sat on the farmhouse porch, her grandmother beside her in the old rocking chair. The afternoon sun was warm, peaceful, like the nightmare had never happened. Except for the trunk. It sat at the edge of the porch, empty now, its rusted metal catching the light. Aaliyah couldn't bring herself to put it away, couldn't decide if she should burn it, donate it, or keep it. "What are you going to do with that thing?" Grandma asked, following her gaze. "I don't know. It saved her life, but it's also a reminder." "Yeah." They sat in silence for a moment. A hawk circled overhead. Somewhere in the distance, that same cow lowed. "You know," Grandma said slowly, "when I was driving to town that night, going 90 miles an hour down those dark roads, I kept thinking about you as a little girl, how you'd cry when other kids were mean, how you'd bring home every stray cat, every hurt bird. Your mother used to say you felt too much. Maybe I do." "No," Grandma's hand found hers. "You feel exactly the right amount. That's why that little girl chose you. That's why you didn't give up when it would have been easier to just let them take her. You fought because it was right, because she needed you to." Aaliyah thought about Chloe, probably home now, probably in her own bed for the first time in 3 weeks. Thought about those 2 boys, reunited with their own families.
thought about all the children still being identified, still being rescued, because Chloe was brave enough to escape, because Aaliyah was stubborn enough to protect her. "The FBI called," Aaliyah said. "They want me to testify. Said the case is going to be huge. National news, probably." "Will you?" "Of course." She looked at the trunk again. "Chloe's going to need people in her corner. People who'll stand up and say what happened. Say it mattered." It did matter. You mattered. The sun dipped lower, painting the fields gold. Aaliyah realized her hands weren't shaking anymore. The nightmares would come, probably. The trauma would need processing. But right now, in this moment, she felt something she hadn't felt in months. Peace. "Sometimes," Grandma said softly, "ordinary people have to do extraordinary things."
And you, my darling girl, were extraordinary. Aaliyah squeezed her hand. So were you, 90 miles an hour in your nightgown? Well, Grandma's eyes twinkled. I may have hit 100 on the straightaway. They laughed together, the sound carrying across the empty fields. And somewhere, 2 states away, a little girl with blue-green eyes was probably laughing too. Safe. Home. Free. The trunk could stay on the porch, Aaliyah decided, not as a reminder of horror, but as a symbol that even in the darkest moments, even when evil seemed overwhelming, there were people who would fight, who would protect me, who would choose love over fear, courage over safety, what was right over what was easy. Sometimes that was enough to change everything. Sometimes that was enough to save a life. Always, it was enough to matter. Chloe's home. Aaliyah kept her promise, and sometimes that's all that matters. If this story touched your heart, show some love with a like. Subscribe so you never miss stories that remind us what we're capable of when we choose courage. And please, share your thoughts below. Tell me how this story made you feel. These stories matter because you're here, because you care, because together we remember that hope is real, heroes walk among us, and love always wins. If this story moved you, if Aaliyah's courage reminded you that fairness still matters and that nobody deserves to suffer the way Chloe did, then go ahead and subscribe. Share what you felt while listening. Your voice genuinely matters here. And don't forget to follow, because there are more stories coming. Stories about hope, justice, and the quiet heroes who refuse to look away. Subscribe if you believe in equality and fairness. Thank you for being part of this journey. See you in the next story.